Have you ever felt like someone emptied you from the inside without even touching you? No yelling, no hitting, just silent manipulation, subtle contempt, and emotional starvation. And now, long after they're gone, there's still a strange emptiness echoing inside of you. That is the invisible void. This kind of wound is not physical. It doesn't leave scars on your skin, but it leaves deep imprints on your psyche. And often no one sees it. Not even you, at least not at first. The hidden aftermath of narcissistic abuse. Narcissistic abuse is psychological warfare. It's gaslighting, invalidation, blame shifting, and control disguised as love. It's a constant undermining of your reality until you don't trust your own thoughts, your own emotions, or your own intuition. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Narcissistic abuse pushes many of your experiences into the unconscious. To survive, your mind suppresses the pain, the confusion, and the shame. But healing begins when you choose to face it. The echo of the narcissist in your mind, even after the narcissist is gone, their voice remains inside your head. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. You'll never find anyone better. These aren't just words anymore. They become your inner dialogue. And that's the tragedy. Your identity slowly merges with the voice of your abuser. Jung referred to this process as psychic possession, when a part of your psyche becomes dominated by an unconscious complex. In this case, the complex is rooted in shame, fear, and emotional abandonment. But here's the truth. That voice inside you is not your truth. It's a fragment, a shadow. Understanding the shadow, Carl Jung introduced the concept of the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that we reject, suppress, or ignore. In the context of narcissistic abuse, the shadow isn't just your anger or sadness. It's your power, your boundaries, your intuition, all of which were repressed to maintain peace with the narcissist. The void you feel today is the absence of those parts of you that were silenced. To heal, you don't need to fill that void with distractions or another relationship. You need to reclaim the parts of yourself that were exiled into the dark. What the narcissist took from you, let's name it, your voice. You learned to stay quiet to avoid conflict. Your sense of self-worth. You were made to feel like a burden. Your trust in reality. Gaslighting left you doubting what's true. Your emotional safety. You walked on eggshells just to keep the peace. These are not just emotional bruises. They are deep disruptions in the self. And Carl Jung's work teaches us this. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Why is it terrifying? Because in the process, you must confront the truth of how deeply you were hurt. But that is the beginning of transformation, the courage to confront the pain. The world doesn't validate invisible wounds. People will tell you to just move on. But healing from narcissistic abuse isn't linear. It's layered, it's painful, it's personal, and above all, it requires truth. Jung believed that truth is the medicine of the soul. But not just any truth, the inner truth. So ask yourself, what part of me did I lose to that relationship? When did I start silencing my own needs? What voice do I still carry that doesn't belong to me? This is not weakness. This is self-inquiry. This is how the unconscious becomes conscious. The seed of healing. The void is not a flaw. It is space. Space that is ready to be reclaimed. Where the narcissist once controlled you, you now have the opportunity to create a sacred container, a space filled with self-respect, clarity, and your own voice. The first step is awareness. The second is compassion. Compassion for the version of you who stayed. Compassion for the version of you who loved them. Compassion for the version of you who is still healing. Carl Jung wrote, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." who looks outside, dreams, who looks inside, awakens. This is the path you are now on, not one of revenge, not one of running away, but a path of awakening. You survived. But survival isn't the same as healing. You've left the relationship, but the relationship hasn't left you. So how do you reclaim yourself when your sense of self was dismantled piece by piece? This is where Carl Jung's greatest psychological contribution comes into play: individuation. What is individuation? Jung defined individuation as the process of becoming who you truly are, not the self shaped by trauma, not the self modified by fear, not the version of you that existed only to please someone else. Individuation means becoming an individual, and insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. Carl Jung, after narcissistic abuse, your sense of self is fragmented. You've built emotional reflexes, people-pleasing, self-doubt, hypervigilance, not out of personality, but out of necessity. Now, you begin the sacred task of separating your true self from your survival self. Self versus survival self. The self is whole, intuitive, authentic. The survival self is reactive, fear-driven, shaped by trauma. In the presence of a narcissist, your authentic self was suppressed to protect you. You learned to read moods like weather forecasts. You became the fixer, the caretaker, the one who apologized just to keep peace. But peace at the cost of self is not peace, it's captivity. Healing requires you to slowly peel away those survival layers and ask, who was I before the distortion began? What do I believe apart from the beliefs I inherited from fear? This isn't about going back to who you were. It's about becoming who you were meant to be. The mirror is inside you. In narcissistic relationships, your identity gets mirrored back to you through someone else's eyes. You were loved when you performed, praised when you obeyed, discarded when you resisted. Your inner compass was replaced by their approval. And now, it's time to recover that compass. Jung believed that healing begins with inner reflection. Not judgment, not blame. Reflection. Ask yourself, what parts of me feel foreign or disconnected? Which values truly belong to me? What do I love, not because I was told to, but because my soul resonates with it? The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung, healing through integration. Individuation doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means becoming integrated. The pain, the shame, the confusion, these aren't obstacles to healing. They are parts of the healing. The more you run from your brokenness, the more it controls you. The more you accept it, the more it transforms into wisdom. This is the paradox of Jungian psychology. Wholeness includes the parts you once tried to disown. From false self to true self, the narcissist may have trained you to become a version of yourself that was palatable to them. You were rewarded for playing a role, but that role isn't you. You are allowed to take up space, have boundaries, say no, be imperfect, make noise, be soft, be fierce. The path to the true self is paved with acts of reclamation. Every time you choose your voice over silence, your truth over appeasement, you step closer to individuation. The inner dialogue must change. You cannot heal with the same inner voice that kept you small. The narcissist's voice may echo in your mind, but now it's time to introduce a new voice, one that says, I see you. You are enough as you are. You don't have to earn your worth. It wasn't your fault. You are still whole, even with your scars. Carl Jung called this the process of inner alchemy, turning psychological lead into gold, turning your suffering into strength, turning your confusion into clarity. Practical steps toward individuation here. are 4 practices to support your individuation process. Daily journaling, write with radical honesty. No filters, let the real you speak. Inner child work, reconnect with the younger version of you who needed protection and love. Shadow dialogues, write or speak to the parts of yourself you've rejected, like your anger, fear, or grief. And listen, solitude without distraction. Turn off the noise. Sit with yourself, feel what arises. Don't run. This is sacred space. You are not lost. You are becoming final reflection. For this part, only the wounded physician heals. Carl Jung, you were wounded. But now, as you reconnect with yourself, you become a healer, not just for others, but for your own soul. The invisible void is not the end. It's the beginning of the most important relationship you will ever have, the relationship with yourself. You are not just the light. You are the shadow too, and what you reject controls you in silence. When we speak of healing after narcissistic abuse, most people focus on escape, survival, and emotional regulation. And while those are crucial first steps, the deepest healing, the kind that frees your soul, lies deeper. It lives in the shadow. Carl Jung gave us one of the most powerful tools in psychology, shadow work. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is where your transformation begins. What is the shadow? The shadow is the part of you that was rejected, shamed, or suppressed. It's everything you were told not to be. It's your anger, your pain, your jealousy, your cravings, your grief. It's also your power, your intuition, and your deepest truth, all locked behind emotional walls. Narcissistic abuse intensifies the shadow because it teaches you that certain emotions are dangerous. You may have learned to bury your anger because it wasn't safe to speak up, desires because you were called selfish, confidence because you were mocked or manipulated, needs because they were dismissed. The result? A split within the self-identity. One side plays nice, strong, or in control. The other side is silenced but alive and burning to be seen. Why shadow work matters. After narcissistic abuse, when you suppress your shadow, you become a ghost in your own body. You feel numb, disconnected. You smile but feel empty. You go through the motions but don't feel alive. Why? Because authenticity requires wholeness. You cannot be free if you are at war with yourself. You cannot love yourself if you only accept the parts that feel acceptable. Jung said, "The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, for no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort." The narcissist projected their shadow onto you. They made you the villain for feeling what they couldn't face in themselves. Now, your healing means breaking that cycle. It means facing your own darkness, not with shame, but with compassion. How to begin shadow? Shadow work isn't about destroying the shadow. It's about listening to it, holding it, learning from it. Here's how. Notice emotional triggers. When you feel irrationally angry, ashamed, jealous, or defensive, pause. Ask, what part of me is speaking right now? That emotion is your shadow knocking on the door. Write a letter to your shadow, yes. Write directly to that angry, hurt, or scared version of you. Don't judge, just let them speak. Then write, back from your wise self. Acknowledge, reassure, accept, recognize projection. Do you overreact to certain people? Often what we reject in others is a reflection of what we've disowned in ourselves. He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. Nietzsche, what we condemn in others often reveals what we fear or repress within ourselves. The masks you built for survival after narcissistic abuse, you likely adopted masks to protect yourself. The hero mask. Always strong, always helpful, always self-sacrificing. The pleaser mask. quiet, agreeable, never confrontational. The stone mask, emotionless, cold, untouched by pain. The achiever mask, obsessed with success to avoid inner emptiness. These masks were adaptive. They helped you survive, but now they limit you. Shadow work means peeling them off, even if you don't yet know who you are underneath. That's okay. You're not discovering something new. You're remembering who you were before fear took over. Shadow work is not about blame. It's about responsibility. This is crucial. Shadow work is not blaming yourself for being abused. The narcissist's behavior was their responsibility, but now your healing is yours. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Carl Jung, owning your shadow, you take back the power to define your story. You shift from victim to author, from surviving to creating, from broken to whole. Tools for daily shadow work. Here are some accessible methods you can practice. Mirror work, look into your own eyes and say what you've never dared to say aloud. Speak to the part of you that was silenced. Witness yourself. Inner dialogue, meditation, sit quietly and speak internally with your shadow. Ask, what do you need to tell me? What do you wish I'd feel? Listen without fear. Creative. Expression, draw, paint, dance, or write from the place of your unfiltered emotion. Let your shadow speak through your body, not just your mind. What happens when you integrate the shadow? You become whole. Not perfect, whole. You stop running. You stop pretending. You stop living only for approval or protection. Instead, you begin living in truth. And truth feels like peace. It doesn't mean you won't feel pain again. But now the pain won't define you. It will teach you, guide you, but not imprison you. Closing reflection. I had to go into the darkness to find the light. I had to meet my shadow, to meet my soul. The invisible void that narcissism left behind is not emptiness. It's the doorway to your entire being. By doing shadow work, you don't become more broken, you become more real. And that, more than anything, is what it means to heal. After walking through the fire, do not return barefoot to the flame. Guard what you've rebuilt. Guard who you've become. The journey of healing after narcissistic abuse is not just about recovering. It's about learning how to protect what you've reclaimed. It's about boundaries, and not just physical or emotional boundaries, but spiritual boundaries. Invisible lines that guard your inner world, your peace, your energy, and your soul. This part of healing is often overlooked, yet Carl Jung understood it deeply. He spoke of the need to develop a strong self, a core identity that could withstand the fragmentation of trauma and manipulation. What are spiritual boundaries? Spiritual boundaries are the energetic and psychological protections you establish between yourself and others. They define what kind of energy you allow near you, what kind of thoughts or beliefs you accept, what kind of behaviors you tolerate, how deeply you allow others to enter your emotional world. These are not walls made from fear. They are filters made from wisdom. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Unknown, after narcissistic abuse, you might feel guilty for saying no, for protecting your time, or for walking away. But that guilt is not your truth. It's your conditioning. Narcissism and the collapse of boundaries. One of the most damaging aspects of narcissistic abuse is boundary erosion. Narcissists invade, twist, and distort your sense of where you end and where they begin. They gaslight you, making you question your perceptions. They project their emotions, blaming you for what they refuse to own. They violate your space, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. They entangle their identity with yours so that you forget who you are. In this entanglement, your soul gets confused. You lose access to your intuition. You no longer trust your no. You hesitate to choose your own path. Rebuilding boundaries. is not only about self-protection, it's about reclaiming your authority over your life. Rebuilding boundaries. A practical and spiritual framework. Let's break down how to restore your sense of sovereignty. Energetic awareness. Start noticing how you feel after interactions with others. If you feel drained, anxious, or uncentered, ask, was I holding my space? Did I override my own needs? Did I absorb energy that wasn't mine? Your body speaks the truth. Your discomfort is a messenger. Reinforce your sacred. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself. To individuate, you must learn to say no, not out of anger but out of self-respect. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Jung, every no to toxicity is a yes to your soul. Create daily grounding. Rituals. Grounding protects your energy field. Spend time in silence each morning. Meditate with your hand over your heart. Visualize your body surrounded by light. Breathe into your spine and say, I am safe. I am mine. This builds energetic clarity, so others' chaos cannot distort your center. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. Sometimes people will call you selfish, cold, or unforgiving when you enforce boundaries. Let them. They are no longer entitled to your energy. Forgiveness does not mean access. Compassion does not mean self-sacrifice. You can love someone and still choose distance. You can release someone without hate. You can wish them healing without inviting them back into your life. Boundaries are not punishments. They are expressions of self-respect. Repatterning, the deep work of emotional alchemy. Narcissistic abuse programs your nervous system to accept neglect, manipulation, and chaos as normal. To shift this, you must repattern your emotional responses. Here's how. Step 1. Recognize your default reaction. Notice if you over-apologize. Stay silent to keep peace. Feel responsible for others' feelings. Seek validation obsessively. These are signs of old programming. Step 2. Pause, breathe, redirect. Instead of reacting, pause, breathe deeply, ask, what would my healed self do right now? Choose from alignment, not fear. Step 3. Reaffirm your inner truth. Affirm daily. My space is sacred. I'm allowed to walk away. I do not need to explain myself. I protect my peace without guilt. Boundary as a spiritual act in Jungian terms. Reclaiming your boundaries is part of becoming conscious, reuniting with yourself. Each time you say no, you draw a line not just between you and another person, but between your past self and your evolved self. This is a spiritual declaration. I am no longer who trauma taught me to be. I am who I choose to become. Final thoughts for part 4. You are not here to be endlessly available. You are not a mirror for someone else's darkness. You are not a fixer, not a container for others' pain. You are a whole soul, deserving of sacred space. So protect your energy, guard your inner light. Draw the line in your spirit and say, here I am. I will no longer abandon myself. Because true healing is not just about who hurt you. It's about who you become when you no longer let them. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung, after the chaos of narcissistic abuse, after the collapse, the confusion, the self-betrayals, after the rage, the grief, the silence, there comes a sacred turning point, the return to the self, the inner you, your original essence, who never left, only waited. What is the self in Jungian psychology? Carl Jung spoke of the self not just as identity or ego, but as the totality of your being, your conscious and unconscious mind integrated in harmony. It is your purpose, your potential, your soul. In alignment with its deeper truth, the center of your psyche, beyond masks and wounds. To return to the self is not to become someone new. It is to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Reconstructing identity after narcissism. When you've been controlled, manipulated, or gaslit for so long, your identity becomes like a broken mirror, shards of who you used to be scattered and confused. You ask, who am I without this relationship? What do I want? What do I believe? Do I even know myself anymore? These questions are not signs of weakness. They are the doorway to rebirth. You are not empty. You are under construction. Steps to rebuild your inner architecture. 1. Recover your voice. Start by speaking your truth, even if it trembles. Write in a journal every day. Speak to yourself with kindness. Express your feelings in safe spaces. Voice is power. Your silence protected you before, but now it's your voice that will free you. Choose values, not roles. You are not just a daughter, partner, or caregiver. You are not a rescuer or a reflection of anyone's needs. Ask, what do I stand for? What matters to me? Build your identity on values, truth, freedom, courage, compassion, not on expectations or roles. Create a life that feels like yours, little by little. Make choices that reflect you. Rearrange your space, change your style. Eat what you enjoy. Spend time with people who see the real you. Each authentic choice is a brick in your new foundation. Learn to receive. After abuse, you may struggle to receive love, help, compliments, or joy. You may feel unworthy or suspicious of kindness, but healing means allowing life to love you again. Let the light in. Let support in. Let beauty in. You are not here to survive. You are here to live fully. Create meaning. From pain, Jung believed suffering, when consciously integrated, becomes the source of transformation. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Jung, your story, your healing has value. You can use it to guide others, to create, to teach, to love deeper. Pain is not the end. It's a portal, integration, becoming whole. Again, healing is not linear. Some days you'll feel free, others you'll feel fragile. But even in those moments, you are not broken, you are reorganizing. The self emerges not when the past is erased, but when the past is integrated. You begin to realize the narcissist was never your mirror. You were their supply. Their behavior was a reflection of their shadow, not your worth. The void they left is not emptiness. It is sacred space for your rebirth. This is individuation, the journey toward your true whole self. A new relationship with spirit and soul. In trauma, many disconnect from their spirituality. But healing invites a return to the soul, not as a belief, but as a lived experience. You begin to feel connected to life again, guided by something greater, safe in your own presence, grounded in your intuition, whether through meditation, nature, prayer, journaling, or creative expression. You start to build a relationship with your inner divinity. This is not about religion. It's about remembrance. You are not alone. You were never alone. From surviving to becoming, you are not the wound. You are the one who healed from it. You are not the discarded self. You are the rising soul. You are not the story they wrote about you. You are the author now. So stand in the mirror today and say, I am no longer surviving. I am becoming. Closing reflection. This journey from narcissistic devastation to soulful restoration is not easy. It is sacred. It is cyclical. It is yours. So honor it. Keep walking, keep trusting, and remember, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But the journey of wholeness begins when we stop running and turn inward. Carl Jung, this is your inward turn. This is your return to self. This is where healing becomes awakening. This is Healing Echoes. If this message touched you, comment "returning" below. Subscribe and be part of this journey back to your true self. You're not alone anymore.